Hello everyone and welcome to Diamonds of Craft where I make things. My name is Sarah and I'm back again. I say that every single time that I do one of these videos because it feels like I've been away for a very long time. I had to take a bit of a break in January, mainly because of work. Work is just too busy for me in January, so I couldn't make more dolls, I couldn't make more videos, I didn't even have time to caption my Elfie video from December. I will get around to that, it will be captioned, so don't worry, and hopefully this one will be captioned as well by the time I upload it. But yeah, I am back again with a collab video this time. So my friend Tell from Telleydollies actually reached out to me and she asked me if I wanted to do a kind of weird Valentine's Day collab with her, and I thought, yes, I'm not a fan of Valentine's Day anyway. So we decided to do a twist on that, and it is Creepily Lovesick, which is as it sounds. It's things that people find attractive that they probably shouldn't. Like vampires. Pretty sure you shouldn't fall in love with a vampire, but they are kind of romantic and, oddly attractive. And that's what this collab is. So it is me, Telleydollies, and Cat Studios. We all decided to make our own monsters that you definitely shouldn't fall in love with, but you do anyway. And I decided to do the asset from The Shape of Water. If you haven't seen The Shape of Water, it's a romance. It's not a traditional romance film, let's just say. It's more what I would describe as creepily lovesick. It's really good. If you haven't seen it, definitely watch it. Guillermo del Toro does some fantastic films, and this is definitely up there. It's interesting, to say the least. It is not your conventional type of romantic film. It's kind of scary, it's kind of strange, and it's kind of amazing, to be honest. And I love it. I thought it was great. That is the collab, that is the theme. Let's get into the video. Okay, something a little different from me here. I am using two different dolls and splicing them together this time. I am using the head of Gil Weber, I believe, from Monster High, and the body of Hunter Huntsman, wow, what a name, from Ever After High. I removed the hair scales and the fins on his body because I thought that maybe they could come in handy later. Then I sanded the body down and drew on where I wanted to rebuild parts, because this is an amphibious man and he needs some extra parts. Now, you will see that I have gloves on here and then I don't. That is because I mixed my epoxy sculpt together just before I drew on the guides. Before you come for me in the comments, I recommend reading the pinned comment first. It just explains my choice, how I've made that choice, and why you shouldn't make a choice based on mine. Please understand that I am trying my best to keep these gloves on, but it is hard for me. So here's the warning right now. Do not use epoxy sculpt without gloves. There's a great video I have linked if you want to inform yourself further. Yeah, just don't worry, don't come for me. Just watch that video, read that post, and let's just carry on. I apologize for my hair being in shot right now. I go back in when the sculpt is a little more firm with some tools to add details. I really like sculpting more biological things because you can't really get it wrong. There's no need to be precious, it just is what it is, and a lot of the time, if it doesn't work out exactly how you wanted it, it still looks good anyway. Because I didn't want to ruin the abs sculpt, I did have to wait until that dried to carry on with the rest of the chest. It is a bit like waiting for layers of paint to dry before you start the next one. It just takes a lot longer. And here I am, wearing gloves for as long as I can stand it. After a long time trying to figure out scales and things, I ended up with this. So I've only put clay on the parts that I've changed. I didn't want to overload this body with more than was necessary, or he'd get really heavy really fast. So anywhere that I can get away with, it's just gonna have these transitions like on the chest and on the tummy. And then I have the arduous task of sanding it down so it's as seamless as possible. In keeping with not putting too much clay on, I chose parts of the body that could have a few scales. So I popped on a bit of clay, smoothed it down, and then pressed it with this wire mesh that gave it a nice scale pattern. I also pondered for a long time on how to make the gills and the fins. Basically, the fins I took off Gil's body were not what I wanted to use. They just didn't fit. So I took the wire mesh, and it was really easy to manipulate into a good shape. Then, since they need to be stuck on somehow, I decided to use Sculpey to make the fins and the external parts, and then I can use epoxy sculpt to smooth it back into the body. I had to do these side gills so that they wouldn't get in the way of the head's movement. I did try and measure it, but I've never been any good at that. It was much easier to deal with the Sculpey than the epoxy though, so I'm glad I chose this path. For the big back fin, I just rinsed and repeated what I did earlier, spreading the Sculpey as evenly as possible onto the mesh and keeping it molded into the right shape as I went. Then, to get the jagged edges of the fins, I pinched and pulled the clay away from the mesh. I did also use the gaps in the mesh as areas I could push the Sculpey down into to keep with that biological look. It just can't go wrong. Once it was baked and solid, I cut the excess mesh off and made sure it still fitted to his back. Then I just stuck all the fins that I'd done up until this point on with some super glue. Then for sculpts that are closer to the skin, it's back to the epoxy. There were some big fins in his back that I was referencing on another screen. I try my best to match what I'm seeing, but sometimes the sculpt has a mind of its own and I just go with it. Things don't have to be perfect in art. That is the beauty of art. It's creative, it's fun, it's personal. I always worry about doing things right, and I never seem to do that. But I've learned in all my years that it doesn't matter. I have the essence of the creature, and it doesn't have to match perfectly. And I'm happy with what I make. It's not easy. If you take anything away from me and my videos, it is that if you enjoy it and you're happy with it, then it's worth it. Okay, so here he is after all of the fins were sculpted and stuck on. I'm pretty pleased with how this looks. I also filled in the spaces between his fingers for webbed hands and hid the seams with more epoxy. I made sure to sand all of those seams down to blend them properly. It looks great, it looks right to me. Now to sculpt a bit on his head. I'd already filled in the space that the scaly hair had left, and of course we all know that epoxy and this soft squishy head don't adhere very well to each other. Luckily, I'd just watched Enchantarium's video for Puppy, and they said to fill the head in with hot glue. So I did, and I added fluff for extra bulk, just to make sure that the top doesn't pop off, and any facial sculpts I'm gonna do stays put as well. Yep, I'd say that's pretty solid. I am starting by filling in the bridge of his nose and across the eyes. This facial sculpt was really great, but it does need to be modified a little, so I am widening the bridge out. And right here is the reason I get ragey with the gloves. Though my long nails aren't much better, at least they help me get some good shapes when needed. I dug out the right shape for the brow bone and smoothed that all down with the tool. Then I moved on to his cheekbones. I definitely put too much material on at first. I do get rid of that because I don't need so much. I figured I would just get a lot of the shapes when painting the face on rather than in the sculpt. This was just to enhance the structure that this face mold already has. I added a new waterline to make his eyes bigger, then again back to sanding it all down to try and make it seamless. His ears were borrowed from another doll who didn't need them, so they've been kindly donated. I stuck those on with super glue to keep them in place, then reinforced it with epoxy, and you guessed it, sanded the seams down. He needed some fin-like things on his head, which was difficult, but I made something similar work. It does the job for me. Then his head is complete and he's ready for painting. Finally! Now, I don't yet have a good way of filming this because I don't have a set space for it really. Bear with this madness for a moment. It is just really satisfying to see this paint going on. Here he is, all the same colour. Now for the painting process. I was actually going to airbrush the lighter parts on as well, but I changed my mind. His skin is all scaly and textured, right? And only some of his body has that texture that I've sculpted on. So my idea was to get more texture and a more organic look by bringing back dabbing. No, I'm not that kind of dabbing. Like in my first video where I applied the skin color with a sponge, I used a cotton pad this time. And yeah, there are little bits left, but it's alright. It adds to it, and I like the effect. The insides of his legs and the edges of the fins are all a lighter colour. So I started with getting that lightness on there, all across the chest, up his neck, and everywhere else that needed it. I do the same for his head whilst I still have this colour out. Then once that is done, I can go in with a wash to pick out the details of the sculpt. It's just a watered down version of the colour that you want to use, and since it's thin, it will collect nicely in the crevices of the sculpt and start giving it more depth. Gosh, I don't talk proper art speak, so this feels kind of weird. But that's what I'm doing here. To transition the light to dark skin, I mixed up a mid-tone and dabbed it on between the light and dark parts so that it looks a bit more natural. And then with an even lighter shade, I tried my hand at edge highlighting. I did have too much paint on my brush, so I tried removing as much of it as I could before continuing to dry brush those edges. Just seemed easier to do it that way. For his fancy blue stripes, I did give this a little test off camera before committing to it fully. All I did here was paint on where I wanted the stripes to go with white. This just meant that the blue would show up a lot brighter when I paint over the top of it. I used the same technique to paint my poison dart frog for Delightful's tropical collab a few years ago. I just repeat this process 100 more times over all of the stripy parts of his body. Then I took a risk and decided to wash the metallic blue onto the fins on his back, and it worked. Then it was a case of going back and painting the stripes, washing the fins, and so on until it was all done. He actually does have more sparkly parts around the blue stripes in the form of gold flecks. So then the task was to fill all of that in between the stripes. With his body done, I can now move on to his head. I did spray him with a layer of MSC before I began, just in case the pencils did want to take. I managed to roughly lay out where I wanted his markings to be with a white pencil, and then use the same technique I used on the body. It works, it's tried and tested, so let's carry on with it. I am not used to paint, so I did find myself using the pencil to guide me, but I did get more confident with it as time went on. Looking closely at the reference picture I had, I noticed his head had more of a dotted structure to it, with the darker spots and lighter spots, so I did my best to emulate that, and I added the gold afterwards. And then this is where I wanted to rely on my painting rather than sculpting. He's got a lot of wrinkles and strange folds in his face, and I think it works better painted, even though I probably could have sculpted it. If I had sculpted the whole head from scratch, maybe I would have put more detail into it, but we're repurposing a doll here, so I'm just using what I think works best. I had to hold my breath doing these white lines for the blue part. It was so scary. With these big black eyes, he looks so cute. But they have to go because he needs his fish eyes, which I just painted in with gold and fixed any weirdness with black. Very nice. So as a final step, we have to seal him. My good friend Steph suggested to use this Mod Podge with sparkly glitter parts in as an extra shine to those scales. Since he is a fish and he is very sparkly, I didn't think it would hurt. I loved the effect it gave, so I painted it on the dark parts of his skin only. Then I used a regular glass varnish for the rest. I did make sure his head was less shiny than the rest of him so it wouldn't be too awkward to take photos later. Speaking of photos, he's now done. So here he is, finally all done in his scaly manfish glory. Let me know how you like him. Do you like him? Would you go on a date with him? Let me know what you thought of him down in the comments below. Remember though, don't be a dick. Let me know what you think of the film if you've seen it. Definitely check out Telleydollies and Cat Studios videos. They're incredible. So happy I got to do a collab with both of them. They're so talented. Check them out. Honestly, you won't be disappointed. Head over to my Instagram to check out more pictures of him taken by the very talented Will from Will Charlton Photography. Consider subscribing if you really like this video. Maybe leave a like if you want to. You can comment too. Again, don't be a dick though. Ring that bell. That's it from me. That's it from old Greg. And I will see you in the next video. Bye! Are you attracted yet? He's handsome for a fish.